if I don't pay attention when you raise your hand, then do start throwing objects. Start with soft ones, move up towards knives gradually, if you wouldn't mind. So I'm going to talk about, sort of as introduced, beyond nudges, social diffusion, and social good. So the Behavioural Insights team where I work was set up just over 5 years ago in number 10 Downing Street and the Cabinet Office. And we were the first government organisation established with a mandate to apply the lessons of behavioural economics and psychology to public policy. What we actually do is rather more read a bunch of academic literature, work out what we think is going to work in public policy in order to solve specific problems, come up with new interventions to solve those problems, and then test them in a rigorous and scientific way. However, the read a bunch of stuff, come up with some ideas that seem like they make sense, and test them unit didn't sound very good on the door. So what we do, as well as applying behavioural economics and psychology, is we do rigorous testing. It means we run randomized controlled trials, which I'd like to say is because we really love science, but it's actually because when we initially started out, nobody believed any of this stuff was going to work. People had seen hundreds of thousands of fads before, and they assumed this was going to go exactly the same way. So typically what we do are nudges, which are small-scale interventions which don't fundamentally alter anybody's incentives, but do alter their behaviour. That's the kind of idea. So one of the first things we started out doing was rewriting the letters we send out as a government to people who haven't paid their tax on time. So instead of just saying, please pay your tax, which actually, to be fair, the original letters didn't say, so we introduced that as a groundbreaking measure, sending people a tax letter saying, please actually do pay your tax. The other thing we did was we introduced a message which said 9 out of 10 people in your area have already paid their tax. And the reason that we did that was because most people who haven't paid their tax think it's everyone who hasn't done. It's like, it's not just me that's lazy, everyone around me is lazy as well. But actually almost everybody has already paid their tax. And so what we found was that very simple change to a letter, which cost very, very little, it's a little bit of extra ink per letter, that brought in £200 million of government revenue faster and £30 million additional revenue per year. So that's quite a lot of money. I mean, £30 million in the grand scheme of all government spending isn't a lot, but you know what they say, sooner or later, millions of pounds here, millions of pounds there, adds up to real money. So a few other things that we've done over the last few years that we're really proud of are we've just published a piece of work around getting GPs to reduce their antibiotic prescriptions. You want me to speak less quietly? No, slower, okay. Okay. Okay, I will do that. I apologize. So we've recently done an intervention I'll keep an eye on you. You can be the person who can tell me if I'm going too quickly. Okay. We've recently done an intervention to try and get GPs to prescribe less antibiotics, which means we're hopefully all going to die somewhat later, which is wonderful. And we've also done a series of interventions in job centres to help unemployed people in Britain get back into work faster that have saved so far about £3 million of days of unemployment. So people have been working for 3 million more days than they would have been otherwise. So we're very pleased with this. These are, as I said, a series of quite basic things. And what I'm here to talk to you today about is a new set of things we've done around social diffusion. So what do we mean by that? So under normal circumstances, you have a government that looks a bit like that. And what it wants people to do is to take a series of actions, so it communicates with them, and it says, dear everyone, please pay your taxes, and hopefully most people do that. However, only some people do that. So you end up with a situation where some people, these orange people, have a very strong relationship with government, they like government, they trust the government. Other people, not so much. Those are the blue circles. And government just tells everyone what to do, but only the orange people tend to respond. What we thought we'd do instead of this in a series of interventions I'm going to tell you about is rely on the fact that actually, the people who we have strong connections with as a government, community leaders, that kind of thing, they have themselves got strong relationships with other people. So instead of us just writing to people, we ask people to tell their friends and their family to do things as well. So that's the basic idea. People have been doing this for a little while. And the idea is it's going to be much more effective. So how do we actually apply that in practice? So the first experiment we did was getting investment bankers to make a donation to charity. We're asking them for a day's salary each, which is, if it was me, about £10, about 12 euros. As it's investment bankers, it's £1,000 each, so it's not an insubstantial amount of money from these guys. So what we do is we get a sample of 10,000 investment bankers, and then we get a much smaller sample of about 2,500 investment bankers, and we split these 10,000 into 4 groups of 2,500. Our control group, which is our basic group, get what they would have got anyway, which is just the CSR department of the bank emailing them and saying, please make a donation of £1,000. In the other three groups, what we do is we email their managers, the people who work with them every day, the people who give them instructions, and we say, can you ask your staff to make a donation? In the first of those conditions, we don't actually even do that. We just say to the line manager, hey, line manager, thanks for making donations in the past. We then, in the reach out condition, we say, please reach out and get your friends and colleagues to make a donation. And in the impact condition, we say, we put words into their mouth. We say, please make a donation and please tell your colleagues about the amazing impact their donation of £1,000 can have. So what happens when we do that? So for every 100 people we write to, in the control group, 6 of those 100 people make a donation of £1,000. So not bad. And so each of these coins represents in total about £25,000 raised for charity. So not bad, but we could do better. When we just say thanks to their line manager, that figure goes up to about 12% of people, so we managed to double it just by saying thanks. When we do even more intensive intervention, so we get people to reach out, we say, please just tell your staff. What that goes up to is 24% of people making a donation. And then we have our impact condition. So in order to show you this, I have to move these guys out of the way. And so in the impact condition, we get up to 39% of people making a donation to charity. Each one of those 39 coins, as I said, is worth about £25,000. This is an intervention we ran over the course of a single day. We ran a very quick test, and we raised in the order of £2 million for this entire campaign, which we wouldn't have been able to raise otherwise. So that's a very basic intervention. So we're pretty pleased with that. However, investment bankers are surprisingly pliable. They're quite rich, quite easy to get them to do what you want, as the grandmasters and custodians of the global economy. So what we try to do is get people to give up their time to donate. So we're going to do another experiment there. We started with this basic model again, but we thought we'd go one step further and we would try what we call second-degree nudges. So we're asking you to ask your friends to ask their friends to make a donation, so try and push it out a little bit further. So what we do here is we try 3 different things. We have our normal business as usual practice, the network nudges I described it previously, saying, please get your friends to donate some time. We're asking them for 5 hours each. And we have the second degree where we say, please ask your friends to ask their friends. So that's what we're doing. In the business as usual case, when we ask people, 8 people in every 100 sign up to make a donation of time. When we have this network nudges condition, we can get 14 out of every 100 people to make the same sort of size of donation. And what's really interesting is when we do the second degree network nudge, we go back. So the second degree network nudge is working worse than the first degree network nudge, exactly as well as the control condition. So people don't really seem to want to ask their friends to do something. And so what we're seeing is this sort of blockage outside of that first degree network problem. And so how are we going to solve that? So that's the next problem we came on to, is how do we get people to actually move beyond and do these things where there's a stronger block? In order to make it a little bit simpler, we went back to basics. So we went back to trying to find an environment where we have a strong obstacle to doing a first-degree nudge rather than trying to, run before we can walk. And so we tried to do that by essentially what we're calling social licensing. So this is when it's difficult for you to have a conversation with your friends about something. So in the case which we're actually going to look at, it's the case of adult learners. So we have a large employer in London, and we have people who are lacking basic functional skills. So they can't read very well, they can't write very well, and they're not very good at maths. And it's very difficult for me to turn around to my friends and say, I think you're a little bit illiterate. I don't think you can read. You're a little bit dumb. Sorry. How about you go on this course? It's very difficult to have that kind of conversation. So what we did was we just provided basically a small prize which people could win if they signed up. This means when I'm telling you, you should sign up for this basic maths course, I'm not telling you you're stupid. I'm saying I want you to win this prize of about £50 worth of Amazon vouchers. So it creates this license to talk to you, because otherwise I wouldn't have felt comfortable doing so. So that's the idea. So we tried another trial. In the business as usual case, we just write to everybody and say, hey, we think you guys might be a bit stupid. Why don't you come along? We then tried another condition. We say, hey, you may know some friends who are a bit stupid. Why don't you ask them to come along? And then in the third condition, we say, hey, you might have some friends who are a bit stupid, but also they might benefit from £50 worth of Amazon vouchers, which gives that legitimate conversation starter. And so the control condition results are very simple. If I just say, you're a bit stupid, please come along, no one does. This is 0 people from every 100, pretty reliable findings. It's a sample of about 28,000 people, so we're very confident that it's nobody. In the network nudges condition, we can get 2 people in every 100, so it's not too bad. But so about every 100 of you in here, 2 of you are receptive to the fact that I'm telling you you're stupid, or that your friends might be telling you you're stupid. Whereas in this prize condition, we can get that up to about 6%, which is, it's not an enormous success, but when you consider the fact we're dealing with an audience of thousands and thousands of people, it means we have full classrooms rather than completely empty classrooms, which is really quite substantive. So these are a few very small-scale examples of what we're doing. Then we've replicated this in a few, not a few dozen yet, a few more experiments across a range of different areas. We're really excited about the potential of this kind of thing to try and strategically create essentially viral interactions and to really try and bottom out why it is these things are happening and get people to spread these social norms around. So if you go back to the initial example of the tax letter, when we say 9 out of 10 people already pay their tax, there are lots of behaviors where 9 out of 10 people don't already do it. So if you're thinking about smoking 30 years ago in the UK, or I think now in Vienna, the rate of smoking was very, very high. And so it was very difficult to make that kind of social norm-based message to say, please do this, please, because everybody else is doing it. And so what we really want to help do now is use this kind of intervention to move us towards a space where we can say, most of your friends don't smoke, most of your friends are engaging in learning, most of your friends are recycling, are getting solar panels for their house and that kind of thing. And to really sort of create a movement towards this kind of thing. So that's basically everything I have.